there be a mighty number of heart references, so I'm going to delve right in. So this is a few heart references in the Odyssey by Homer through page 120. This is 2025 U Chicago Press edition. Today is Tuesday, 2 June 2026 AD, and inspired by my cardiology self-experimentation, here I, Tanis, she, her, hers of Seattle, talk through a few heart references in the Odyssey by Homer through page 120. Initial text by Homer, approximately 8th century BC. Specific book/edition, the Odyssey by Homer, translated by Daniel Mendelsohn. 2025, the University of Chicago Press edition. Hardcover, ISBN in the video description. I read pages 1 through 50 on Sunday, 31 May 2026 AD. Pages 51 through 90, Monday, 1 June 2026, and then pages 91 through 120, Tuesday, 2 June 2026 AD, the day I'm filming this. So here we go. I watched out for heart stuffs invoking the art of war and the Iliad style/approach. Pages 45 to 47, the translator Daniel Mendelsohn shows spread in how a few lines, including a heart word reference, can vary between translations. All right, and here we go. In the work itself, so there's like an introduction with notes and stuff by the translator, an author of the notes and stuff, and then the work by Homer translation. So page 73, page 1 of the translation, quote, anguish in his heart, end quote, heart feel/emotion of anguish, tried paired with suffering and struggle. Okay. Page 74, quote, but my heart is cleft in two, end quote, heart invoked is capable of being subdivided. Page 74, quote, very heart of the sea, end quote, meaningful/distinct location not on the fringes/outside. Page 75, quote, has your heart now turned from him, end quote. This was also in the Iliad, that a heart can be appealed to by another. Page 75, quote, instill a man's courage within his heart, end quote, courage located/housed in the heart. Page 76, quote, for he'd been sitting among the suitors with anguish in his heart, end quote, solitary feel of the heart and physical presence of others, perhaps ecosystem-like. For this reading I saw in this entry blood pressure. Page 76, quote, his heart stung with indignation, end quote, good, the human heart could feel a pointed/punctuated pang. Page 79, quote, slip some prophecy into your heart, end quote, the heart was capable of and or housed prediction. Closest fit of my cardiology self-experimentation currently may be blood pressure history. Page 81, quote, mark my words and take what I say to heart, end quote, make it sticky like blood glucose. Page 81, quote, has her heart set on marrying, end quote, heart temperament/intent can be hard to change. Page 82, quote, put your brain and your heart, end quote, heart and brain can work together, like my self-experiment design and execution. Page 82, quote, given your heart some ease, end quote, and makes your heart rejoice, end quote, and, quote, pleases your heart to give me, end quote, and, quote, into his heart she put, end quote, and, quote, dumbstruck in his heart, end quote, heart requires, ? Rest in certain utility states. Page 83, quote, charm mortal hearts, end quote, and, quote, wears down the heart within my breast, end quote, changes in heart processes and heart located in breast. Page 83, quote, be brave in your heart and your soul, end quote, bravery is not solely spiritual, it can also be physiological. Page 84, quote, she stored her child sensible words deep in her heart, end quote, things can stay in the heart. Page 88, quote, his heart might yearn, end quote, heart can want. Page 89, quote, hearts inside the breasts, end quote, generally applicable that the heart is located in the breast. Page 90, quote, straightway our stalwart hearts were convinced, end quote, heart can rapidly change state, this is a big deal. Page 90, quote, yourself with take it to heart, end quote, and, quote, all of these Achaeans will take it to heart, end quote, singular and plural heart attribute. Page 90, quote, a noble heart, end quote, hearts could be ranked/possessed relative quality. Page 91, quote, provoke outrage in your hearts, end quote, heart could be provoked, might be true for the brain and stomach as well, also debris and lungs. Page 91, quote, brooded deep in their hearts about what might come to pass, end quote, heart and prediction linked. Page 94 to 96, quote, high-hearted suitors, end quote, and repeated 3 times, so 4 times total. Hope, question mark, elated feel, question mark, persistent physical presence of individuals. Okay. Page 94, quote, yearned with all his heart, end quote, heart could be called upon full force. Page 96, quote, deeply troubled at heart, end quote, conflicted could be felt in the heart. Page 97, quote, proud-hearted youth, end quote, pride linked to heart. Page 98, quote, take heart this plan, end quote, heart linked to plan heft. Page 105, quote, thus strife in the hearts, and thrust strife in the, quote, thrust strife in the hearts, end quote, stuff can be injected into the heart. Page 106, quote, hard-hearted, end quote, linked with no celebration on occasion there might have been. Page 106, quote, hard-hearted man, end quote, in reference to a particular leader. Page 107, quote, care for you in her heart, end quote, heart cultivation / curation. Page 111, quote, poured and drunk to their heart's content, end quote, physicality / consumption needed for heart to be content. Page 111, quote, give heart to my comrades, end quote, one can strengthen another. Page 112, quote, great-hearted, end quote, and, quote, great-hearted, end quote, descriptor applied to more than one individual. Page 112, quote, poured and drunk to their heart's content, end quote, physicality / consumption needed for heart to be content. Page 113, quote, great-hearted, end quote, descriptor applied to person. Page 114, quote, great-hearted, end quote, descriptor applied to person. Page 114, quote, high-hearted, end quote, descriptor applied to person. Page 118, quote, you who delight my heart, end quote, external person linked to heart feel. Page 119, quote, his heart and mind going back and forth, end quote, the mind and the heart could run. That quotation there is my choice. Run. Page 119, quote, turning all of this over deep in his mind and his heart, end quote, ruminating in the mind and heart. Page 120, quote, my heart commands me to speak, end quote, speech was heart compelled. Page 120, quote, great-hearted, end quote, descriptor applied to person. Page 120, quote, go ahead and pour out his heart, end quote. Heart might need coaxing to proceed. Yeah, so the part in the quote and then end quote, that's there, and then I provide my note along with what I chose to extract to say in this video. And I am Tanis, she, her, hers of Seattle. Tanis Gillespie, question mark. Did he know that Homer wrote the Odyssey? Homer Odysseus? Did the author, Daniel Mendelsohn. Anyway, that's a few heart references in the Odyssey by Homer through page 120 to 2025 U Chicago Press edition.